You know that feeling? Maybe you felt it, sort of trapped by debt or just lost in all the financial jargon they throw around?
Oh, definitely. It's like there's this whole other language.
Exactly. Well, today we're going to cut through all that confusion. This deep dive, it's really designed to give you actionable, legal ways to, well, fix things up financially.
Yeah, to help you really understand your rights, the tools you actually have.
So you feel empowered, not overwhelmed.
And look, let's be clear. This isn't about, dodging what you owe.
No, not at all.
It's about understanding the system, a system that, let's face it, can sometimes feel like it's set up for debt. Knowledge here, it's like your legal sword.
A legal sort, I like that.
Because true freedom, financially anyway, it starts with knowing the facts. Information is key.
Absolutely. So our goal today, give you that shortcut,
Mm.
help you get really informed on how to legally challenge, maybe even get rid of certain debts. We've got some surprising stuff, hopefully a bit of humor along the way, too.
Keep things interesting.
Okay, let's unpack this then. You get that letter, that call about a debt. First reaction might be panic, right? Or maybe just paying it to make it go away.
Very common reactions.
But hang on, before you do anything, the big question, the first question should be, is this debt even legally mine? Is it actually valid?
And it's amazing how few people actually stop and ask that. They just assume.
Right. So what makes a debt legally, enforceable? It's not just because some company says you owe them money.
Not at all. There's some basic requirements, minimums, really. First, you had to have consciously agreed to it.
Yeah.
Think like a contract you signed, specific terms you accepted, a signature maybe?
Okay, so there needs to be an agreement.
Exactly. Second, the company trying to collect. They need the actual legal right to do it. Do they have a valid license in your state?
Yeah.
That matters.
Huh. Okay. License is important.
Very. Third, it can't be ancient history. There's something called the statute of limitations. If the debt's too old, it might be legally expired or prescribed is the term.
So it has a shelf life, legally speaking.
It does. And finally, every single penny, they're asking for the original amount, fees, interest. All of it needs to be verifiable. They need to be able to prove those charges
Down to the last cent, you said. Wow.
down to the last cent.
Which brings us to this kind of shocking idea, what we're calling the 90% error. Is it really that high? That most people pay without realizing the collector might not have proof or the debt's too old?
It sounds high, but yeah, it's a huge issue. People just don't know to question it. They see an official-looking letter, they worry, they pay. The system, in that sense, kind of wins by default when you don't push back.
Because you assume they've done their homework.
Precisely. And often these collectors, especially the debt buyers, they purchase these massive portfolios of old debt, sometimes for just pennies on the dollar.
Pennies on the dollar. Really?
Yeah. And often they don't get the original paperwork, no contract, maybe no full payment history. So their actual legal claim can be pretty weak from the get-go.
Hmm.
They're basically gambling that you won't call their bluff.
Okay, so their claims might be shaky. How do we, use that? How do we fight back legally? This is where it gets interesting, right? Using the laws that are already there.
This is where you get your power back. It's not about finding loopholes or tricks. It's about leveraging existing federal laws designed to protect you, the consumer.
Okay, lay it on us. What are these key laws?
There are two main ones you absolutely need to know. First up is the FDCPA. That's the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act.
FDCPA.
Got it. Think of it like your federal shield against bad collector behavior. Its whole point is to stop harassment, intimidation, illegal tactics. You have the stuff that makes people dread the phone ringing.
Right, the bullying tactic.
Exactly. And under the FDCPA, you have a really powerful right, the right to request validation of any debt they claim you owe.
Validation, so proof.
Formal proof. It's written right into the law.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker. Once you send a formal validation request, they legally have to stop contacting you about the debt until they provide that validation.
Wow. Okay, so sending that letter puts the brakes on things.
It should, legally. They also can't threaten you with things they can't or won't actually do, like saying they'll sue you if they have no intention to, or, threatening jail time, which is almost always illegal for consumer debt.
Good to know. What's the second law?
The second one is the FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act. This one governs your credit report, how info gets collected, stored, and shared by the credit bureaus.
Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, those guys.
Those are the big three, yeah. Under the FCRA, you have the right to dispute anything on your credit report that's inaccurate, incomplete, or unverifiable.
Unverifiable. That sounds important.
It's huge, because if you dispute something, The credit bureaus must investigate it, usually within 30 days. And if they can't verify the information with the source, like the collector,
Then what?
then they must remove it from your report. It's not up for debate. If it can't be proven, it has to go.
Okay, so knowing these laws, the FDCPA and FCRA, it's not just trivia. It's like having the actual legal codes to defend yourself.
Exactly. It's your foundation, your legal shield, like you said earlier.
All right, so let's talk tactics. If you want to go on the offensive against a collection claim you think is bogus, what's your main weapon?
Your primary legal weapon, hands down, is the debt validation letter.
The validation letter, we mentioned that.
Right. Its purpose is simple but powerful.
Yeah.
You're formally demanding the collector prove the debt is actually valid and that they legally own it and have the right to collect it from you.
Okay, and timing matters here, right? You said send it early.
Ideally, yes. Sending it within the first 30 days after they first contact you triggers the strongest protections under the FDCPA, like that automatic halt to collection calls until they respond with proof.
And if it's past 30 days, can you still send it?
You absolutely can and often should. You just lose some of those automatic FDCPA protections, but you still have the right to demand validation. It's always worth asking for proof.
Makes sense. So what must be in this letter? Can you just say, prove it?
Well, a bit more formal than that is better. You need to clearly state its request for validation of the debt under the FDCPA. Be specific. Ask for things like the original contract or agreement bearing your signature, a full itemized breakdown of the amount they claim, proof they purchased or were assigned the debt, and proof of their license to collect in your state.
Okay, be specific. Demand document.
Yes, and include a clear instruction, something like, until you provide this validation, I demand that you cease all collection activities concerning this alleged debt. Firm.
I like it. Any other tips for sending this?
Crucial ones, actually. First, never ever sign it with your actual handwritten signature. Just type your full name. Collectors have been known to misuse signatures.
Wow, okay.
Good tip. Second, always keep a copy of the letter for your records. Always. And third, send it via certified mail with return receipt requested. That little green card you get back in the mail is your legal proof they received it and when. It starts the clock ticking on their response time.
That receipt is gold, basically.
It's ironclad proof. And the potential win here. If they don't respond within the legal time frame, usually around 30 days, or if the proof they send back is weak or incomplete.
Then you've got grounds to challenge it.
Exactly. You have a solid basis to dispute it off your credit report and potentially tell them to stop bothering you.
So it sounds like sending this validation letter isn't just asking for proof, it's almost setting them up to fail. Like you're forcing them to follow the law, and if they stumble.
That's actually a really good way to put it. You're not tricking them. You're just holding them strictly to the legal requirements. And frankly, many collectors, especially those dealing with old purchase debt, often can't meet those requirements.
So you're creating conditions for them to make legal errors.
Precisely. Common mistakes they make. Continuing to call you after you've sent the validation letter, that's an FDCPA violation right there.
Yeah.
Not responding within the 30-day window. Sending back incomplete info. Making baseless threats.
And your job is to just document all of that.
Meticulously. Log every call after you sent the letter. Note the date they responded or failed to respond by. Every violation strengthens your case. You build this evidence file, and then you can use it to file complaints, demand removal from your credit report, maybe even sue them for damages if the violations are serious enough.
Wow. And the key is written communication only.
Stick to writing as much as humanly possible. It creates that paper trail. Document everything, dates, times, who you spoke to, if you absolutely must take a call, what was said, everything.
Okay, that handles new collections, but what if the damage is already done? What if a questionable debt is just sitting there on your Equifax or Experian report hurting your score? Can you fight that directly?
Absolutely. And you definitely should. If a debt wasn't properly validated or there are inaccuracies in how it's reported, you can and should dispute it directly with the credit bureaus themselves.
All three of them. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion.
Yes, you generally need to dispute with each one individually if it appears on multiple reports.
And what kind of things can you dispute?
Anything that's wrong. Debts you sent validation letters for and never got proof back on. Incorrect balances or dates. Accounts listed twice. Accounts that aren't even yours. Or just anything that seems incomplete or, again, unverifiable.
And the legal basis for this is that FCRA law you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. The FCRA mandates that the bureaus investigate your dispute usually within 30 days. They contact the company that reported the information, If that company can't verify it or doesn't respond,
It has to come off.
it must be deleted. That's the law.
Now, I heard a statistic, something crazy, like a huge percentage of credit reports have errors. Is that true?
It's disturbingly true. Studies have shown figures around 79–80% of credit reports contain some kind of error. Maybe minor, maybe major.
80%. That's nuts. So just checking your report could uncover stuff to fix.
Absolutely. It's a massive opportunity. Think about common errors. Duplicate accounts, making it look like you owe twice as much. Paid debts still showing as unpaid. Someone else's negative info mixed with yours happens more than you'd think with similar names.
Yeah.
Even small things matter. A single payment incorrectly marked 30 days late can tank your score by 50, even 100 points sometimes. Wrong dates, wrong amounts, it all adds up.
Okay, so if you find an error, how do you craft a smart dispute letter to the bureaus? Any tips there? Avoid the generic online forms.
Definitely personalize it. Be super clear and specific about why you're disputing. Don't just say, this isn't mine. Say, I am disputing account XYZ because it was not validated as required by the FDCPA after my request on date. Or, this account balance is incorrect. The correct balance is ABC. Please update.
Referencing the laws helps.
It can, yes. Phrases like, pursuant to the FCRA, 15 U.S.C. Section 1681I, you are required to investigate this dispute. Or, under Section 1681EB, unverifiable information must be deleted. It shows you know your rights. And, yes, generally avoid the simple online checkbox disputes if you can. A well-written letter with attached proof is often more effective.
Could we walk us through the process, step by step, for disputing with a bureau?
Sure. Step 1. Get your reports. Annualcreditreport.com is the official place for your free annual ones. Go through them carefully.
Analyze everything.
Step 2. Gather your proof. Copies of your validation request, the certified mail receipt, maybe payment records if that's relevant, anything supporting your claim.
Copies, not originals.
Never originals. Step 3. Draft a clear, personalized dispute letter for each bureau reporting the error and for each specific item you're disputing on that report. Attach copies of your proof.
Be thorough.
Step 4. Send each letter via certified mail, return receipt requested. Again, proof of delivery is crucial.
Always certified mail. Got it.
Step 5. Keep meticulous records. Log when you sent it, when the 30-day investigation period is up, and document every single piece of correspondence you get back or don't get back. That paper trail is vital.
Okay. Seems straightforward, but requires diligence. Now, what if you do all that, you follow the steps, send the letters, and they still don't fix it? The collector ignores you, the bureau says the dispute is frivolous or something. Is there a higher authority?
Yes, there absolutely is. Your next step is often the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
The CFPB? Heard of them, they're federal, right?
Yes, a powerful federal agency created specifically to protect consumers in the financial sector. They oversee debt collectors and the credit bureaus. They have teeth.
So what can they do?
They investigate complaints. If a collector violated the FDCPA, or if a credit bureau didn't conduct a proper investigation under the FCRA, the CFPB can step in. They follow up, demand answers, and can often compel corrections or get companies penalized.
Okay, so when should you file a complaint with the CFPB?
Good question. File if a collector or bureau ignores your dispute or doesn't respond within that 30-day window. File if the bureau's investigation seems totally inadequate, like they just took the creditor's word for it without real checking. File if they label your legitimate dispute frivolous without a valid reason. Or if they verify info but it still keeps appearing inaccurately on your report.
Basically, when the system seems to be failing you despite your efforts.
Exactly. And filing is pretty straightforward. Go to their website, consumerfinance.gov. Be ready to upload all your documentation, your letters, the certified mail receipts, any responses you got, screenshots, dates. Tell your story clearly.
What makes a complaint effective?
Documentation and clarity. Lay out the facts. On date, I sent a validation request via certified mail. No valid response received. On date, I disputed with bureau name via certified mail. They responded date stating verification, but failed to provide proof. The item remains inaccurate because reason. I believe my rights under FDCP FCRA were violated. A complaint like that, backed by evidence, can get results surprisingly fast. Sometimes accounts get deleted in less than 30 days after the CFPB gets involved.
So you're using the government's oversight to enforce the rules, beating the system with the system.
That's the idea. Leverage the regulations designed to protect you.
Okay, this is all super helpful for debts that are questionable or reported incorrectly, but what if the debt is actually real? It's valid, it's verifiable within the statute of limitations. Are you just stuck then? Does it just sit there damaging your credit?
Not necessarily. Even with legitimate debts, you often still have negotiation power, especially regarding how it impacts your credit report. It's not always just about paying the full amount and letting the negative mark stay for 7 years.
Ah, okay. So you can negotiate how it gets reported.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
One common strategy is called pay for delete.
Pay for delete sounds promising.
It can be. You basically offer to pay the debt, maybe the full amount, maybe a settled amount, in exchange for the creditor or collector agreeing to completely remove the negative account history from your credit report.
So it vanishes like it was never there.
That's the goal. But, and this is critical, you must get this agreement in writing before you pay them a single cent.
Get it in writing first. Cannot stress that enough.
Cannot stress that enough. Verbal promises for pay for delete are notoriously unreliable.
Yeah.
Get it on paper, signed if possible, detailing exactly what they agree to do, delete the account from all bureaus, in exchange for your payment.
Okay. What other negotiation options are there?
You can negotiate a settlement agreement. This is where you offer to pay a lump sum that's less than the full amount owed, say, 40 or 50%, as full and final settlement of the debt.
Settle for less.
Right. Again, get the agreement in writing, and try to ensure they agree to report it as paid in full or settled in full, not something like settled for less than full balance, which can still look negative. Also, watch out that they don't issue a 1099-C for canceled debt income on the forgiven portion without discussing it first.
Tax implications there. Good point. Any other tactics?
Sometimes, especially with original creditors, you might negotiate a payment plan where they agree to update the reporting status. Maybe instead of showing in default, they agree to mark it as paying under agreement as long as you make the payments. It might not remove the past negativity, but it stops the ongoing damage.
Okay, so always ask for something related to credit recording before paying.
Absolutely. Never just pay an old debt, especially a collection, without trying to negotiate something beneficial for your credit report in return. And again, no verbal deals, don't sign things you don't understand, and be careful not to accidentally restart the clock on the statute of limitations for very old debts by making a payment without a clear written agreement.
This is incredibly empowering stuff, seriously. But even with all this knowledge, where do people typically slip up? What are the common traps they fall into?
Oh, there are definitely common pitfalls. Probably the biggest is disputing without a clear strategy or solid proof. Just firing off generic online dispute forms without backing them up often gets you nowhere. You need to build your case.
So doing the homework matters.
Massively. Another huge mistake, talking to collectors on the phone. It feels direct, but it creates no paper trail. Stick to written communication, preferably certified mail, for anything important like validation requests or disputes.
Avoid the phone calls. Got it.
Also, ignoring letters from collectors, especially the initial ones. That first letter often contains important notices about your right to dispute within 30 days. Ignoring it can mean losing some key FDCPA leverage. Always respond formally and timely.
Don't stick your head in the sand.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
They're finally not tracking those deadlines. The 30-day windows for validation response for bureau investigation, those are critical. Missing them can weaken your position. You have to stay organized.
Okay, so avoiding those traps is key. What about proactive tips? How do you approach this whole thing like a real pro, maximizing your chances of success?
Think like you're preparing for a legal case, even if it never gets that far. First, build a dedicated case file for each debt or dispute. Physical folders, digital folders, whatever works for you. Keep copies of everything. Every letter sent, every response received, every certified mail receipt.
Document everything, organize everything.
Everything. Second, I'll say it again, always use certified mail with return receipt requested for all important correspondence with collectors and bureaus. That little green card is your non-arguable proof of delivery and timing. It costs a few extra bucks, but it's worth its weight in gold legally.
Pay the fee, get the proof.
Absolutely. Third, maintain a detailed timeline or log. Use a notebook, a spreadsheet, whatever. Record dates letters were sent. Calculate the response deadlines, usually 30 days plus mailing time. Note when or if responses arrive. Summarize calls if they happen. Keep track of next steps.
Stay on top of the calendar.
Yes. Fourth, if you do end up speaking on the phone, maybe they call you unexpectedly, immediately document the call. Date, time, name ID of the person you spoke with, what was discussed, any agreements or threats made. Then consider sending a written follow-up confirming the conversation.
Confirm verbal stuff in writing. Smart.
Fifth, protect your identity. Use a secure mailing address if needed. Only provide necessary personal info. And as mentioned, only send copies of supporting documents, never your originals. Keep the originals safe in your file.
And organize those files meticulously.
Yes. Folders for Equifax disputes, TransUnion, Experian. A folder for each collector, a folder for CFPB complaints. Keep sent letters, proof of delivery, responses received, all neatly filed. When things get confusing, good organization is your best friend.
Okay, this has been incredibly detailed. We've really gone deep. It feels like we've shifted the perspective from feeling like debt just happens to you to realizing you have actual tools and strategies.
That's the goal. It's not magic, like you said earlier. It's about information, taking methodical action, and understanding the strategy, knowing the rules of the game.
From trapped to empowered.
Exactly. Look, the financial system in some ways benefits from people staying in debt or feeling powerless against it.
Yeah.
But once you have this knowledge, you're not part of that majority anymore. You're not operating in the dark.
You know how to validate, how to dispute, how to negotiate.
Legally, smartly, and without being intimidated. That knowledge, once you understand it and crucially apply it, that's where the real value lies.
So, a final thought for everyone listening. Now that you've heard all this, now that you understand these rules, what stands out to you? What feels like the single most impactful step you could take, maybe even today, to start reclaiming your own financial story?
Maybe it's finally checking those free credit reports.
Could be. You can get them at annualcreditreport.com. Definitely worth doing. Take that first step.